It's Jordan Mulligan from the Mulliganbrothers, and today's video is with Eddie Pinero, creator of Your World Within, one of the greatest motivational speakers in the space right now, talking about how he got here through his early years of life. Today's video is sponsored by Mulliganbrothers.com, where you can buy the Inspired Change hoodies, the Mulligan Brothers hoodies, and the Not a Journals, all linked in the description. But before that, how did Eddie Pinero come to create some of the greatest motivational videos and content? What was his story in his early days? Let's jump into it.
I grew up in a military family, so we moved around quite a bit. I was born in Japan on a naval base and went to Virginia Beach and then Phoenix and then LA and Boston. Spent some time in Roanoke and now down in the Miami area, so bounced around quite a bit. And as a kid, it was, I loved sports and creativity, music, making things, that was where my heart was at and what I spent time doing with my buddies.
Yeah, I hear a lot of different experiences from living in a military family. On the channel, we've interviewed a lot of military guys, and usually they're also from a military family. Like, what was your experience like? Yeah,
well, you do move around quite a bit, but in a way, it sort of toughens you up a little bit, right? I mean, you learn how to, make new friends and adapt and change. It was almost like the precursor to, real life. It was a beautiful way to see a lot of the country and, go places I wouldn't have gone.
Okay, and then talking about like early days, like we see some people like basketball players or athletes, entrepreneurs, from 3 years old, this is what I wanted to do. Like, what was your experience in regards to what you do now? Like back then, looking back with hindsight, is there a connection?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I mean, there's definitely a connection, but it's one of those things where, I never thought I would be a speechwriter or motivational speaker. My thing was music, and it was always like, there's a saying, not all who wander are lost, and that's sort of what I gravitated towards. And for me, it was, my big epiphany was leaving the corporate world and writing songs and helping other musicians in the Boston area create songs, and then grabbing the camera, creating music videos, and then short films, and then writing and creating like little 90-second movies or commercials, and it just kept gravitating until you hit that intersection of what you love and what adds value, right? I mean, when that happened, and you know right away, it's almost like there's fireworks. I started waking up super excited to create this content and tell these stories, and then on the other end, people are saying, hey, that I connected with that, thank you. And that's the light bulb moment. That's like, we're all in right there, that's the money.
Amazing. Let's jump back to that in a second, but I have to pick up on this quote, not all who wander are lost. And that's really when I would say myself, Luke, and William, our other brother, one of the Mulligan brothers, I would say all of us, before we came together to do this, were wanderers. We were how, and at times that you can feel lost in that situation. It can be lonely. Speak to, if you could, to the wanderers out there who that message I think is fantastic, to know that they are on a path still.
Yeah, well, to your point, I mean, there's this preconceived notion that we have to have it figured out, that life is a checklist, A, B, C, D, you're going in order, and if you're not where you're supposed to be, you've messed up. And it's like, if you don't allow yourself to stumble a little bit, to try things, to take your L's, you'll just never get where, you innately most want to be. I mean, in talking about our YouTube journeys and in parallel, you mentioned that there were some curveballs that put you guys where you are. Same thing with me. It was like the weirdest things, at the time, most disappointing things, like all of that allowed me to pivot and ask myself, what do you want? How can you delve further into what's meaningful? And if you're living from a standpoint of, I have to do what's right, I can't mess up, I need to, straight line, you'll just miss out on some of the most beautiful aspects of life. And that's why I go to that quote all the time. Not all who wander are lost. Remind myself, take risks, try things. You'll fall, you'll make an idiot out of yourself. You'll look back in 2 years and be like, oh God, cringe. But that's where the value is, and it'll propel you forward.
You know, when you're aiming for a goal, for myself, I was hell-bent on getting to the NBA. Like, that was me. Like, that's what I thought. I genuinely believed it. And I failed at that goal. But that having that path and that direction, and looking back now, led me here 100%. Like, it was the same path, and then we just took a little detour. So I mean, what is, like, how would you define that to somebody, like, to maintain that through your life? Like, for me, I see it as having purpose. Like, my purpose was basketball at the time, but it changed now. I mean, do you see that with yourself as well as your own journey?
I do, yeah. I mean, and it's we learn, you know, you can say from athletics, but we learn from certain chapters and carry that into the next components of our lives. Like, for me, I'm always talking about the parallels between running and the creative aspect of what I do. There's so many parallels. It's like, you know, moving forward when it hurts, when you don't want to, or the idea of you know, not knowing, you know, not being able to see a finish line. And it feels like borderline insanity. You know, when you start something new, whether it's a podcast or a YouTube channel or a video production business, whatever it is, it's nothing at first. I mean, you have to will it into existence, and that's something that, you know, you can look back and sort of piecemeal from different parts of your life where, you know, you weren't doing that particular thing, but it's still, you know, and there's, you know, in terms of the basketball thing, Ryan Holiday is a beautiful distinction between passion and purpose that I've always sort of stuck with. You know, the idea that passion is like that quick blast of dopamine. It's exciting, it's fun, it's starting a new podcast, you know, in the first month, everything's exciting, but then the views don't come right away. The downloads don't come right away. Then the passion doesn't mean very much, then it's purpose. And it's like, can you get through that valley of despair? What are you gonna do with that? That's when most people stop. But if you're looking, you know, big picture, you have an advantage that most people don't. And, you know, that's a mindset. That's something that doesn't matter what you're doing, you can drop into any aspect of your life.
Purpose, I really love the word purpose. And I feel like you had the same, very similar moment to us. I remember we put out a piece, our first piece, and a comment came back, and it was like, or a message, and this was amazing, thank you so much, it helped me. And it's almost like the purpose just popped up straight away. It was so amazing. Recount, like, if you can, that moment where that happened, and get at the start, you get that quiet, you know, they're the things that keep you on track as well, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we were saying earlier, like, the thing about the digital space is you're looking at numbers. You're looking at clicks, you're looking at likes, you're looking at views, and that's great. And, you know, from a business standpoint, from an analytical standpoint, it helps. But you can't derive true meaning from that. And so for me, it was like, you know, the emails that started coming through that was like, I'm at a very tough time in my life, and your story helped me think about things differently. And that's when it's like, you understand the magnitude and the impact you can have in a few things. Like, one, it's never like this monumental shift. It's a tiny little change in perspective, you know, that someone can step back and be like, oh, the opportunity's right there. And it may be small, but that's, you know, that's all I need to get the ball rolling. And yeah, I mean, it's such a rewarding thing, you know?
Thank you so much to Eddie Pinero for sharing his life story with us, for sharing all the messages with us. The full interview is going to be linked down below. The main piece on Mulliganbrothers will be linked down below. But more importantly, Eddie's stuff is going to be linked down below. And you would have heard this guy so many times in the motivational world. His voice has been used so many times. His speeches and work and words have been used constantly. So if you've been inspired by this, go follow him. I'm glad that you've got to see a face to the voice. And thank you so much to Eddie. Today's video was sponsored by BetterHelp.com, where you can get online therapy from professionals using the link in the description. Go check it out. And also all the support at Mulliganbrothers.com, where you can buy the hoodies and the new book. Thank you so much, guys. It makes this possible. It means we can fly around the world to interview people like Eddie. Go be the inspiration for somebody else. Be successful and inspire somebody else to try and follow in your footsteps. Have a blessed and productive day, and I'll see you in the next one.
Peace.